Extreme 3D Doritos Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi everybody, in today's video I'm going to show you something that I think is in its own way a little patriotic, kind of like last year's 4th of July hot dog design. I'm continuing that trend, and happy Independence Day to everyone in the United States, and today we're going to be doing a Doritos nail. So it's a Doritos bag that is pouring chips out all over the nail. I think this nail is so cool. It's one of my favorite pouring nails I've ever done. There's so much detail in that Doritos bag that I just love it so much. So I hope you guys love it as much as I do. And don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So I'm going to begin with an overlay of Cover Pink acrylic. Most of this background is completely covered up, so it doesn't really matter. It could just be clear or whatever color you want, because it's pretty much covered up. So whatever is out, this color, I can't even talk. This color is just out on my table because I had been using it right before it, so I thought, I'll use this again. But it's pretty much irrelevant. And then we're going to file the nail into shape with the E-file, starting out with a coarse bit to remove any bulk, and then using a finer bit to smooth out the surface texture and make sure that it is nice and smooth and velvety. And then after you have all of that done, I'm going to take a super narrow bit and drill a hole right in the middle of the nail. This is for the wire to be that your Doritos bag is supported by. So you have to make sure that you do drill a nice hole for that. So now on a silicone mat, I'm going to paint a rectangle of a metallic gel base. So this is Madam Glam products, so if you guys don't have this particular product, that's fine. Just work with whatever it is that you have. And then after that's cured, I'm going to cover it with a rectangle of Madam Glam's metallic silver base and cure that again. So that just gives it a really nice shiny inside to the bag because all of these chip bags have a super shiny interior. So the next layer is going to be a red, and I believe that this is Perfect Red by Madam Glam, but I'm not 100% sure. So after that's on there, I'm going to just cover the silver with that color. You don't necessarily want any of the silver to show through. If a little bit does, or kind of the metallic-iness shows through, that's okay, but you don't want to use one of Madam Glam's metallic colors because that would just be too much. So then I'm going to add some shading with a darker shade of red on the top and bottom or on the long sides of the rectangle. And then with black gel paint, I'm going to begin painting that triangle for the Doritos logo. So from this point forward, focus all of your painting on one side of the bag. And it doesn't really matter which side of the bag you choose, but just make sure it stays on one side. And then with white paint, I'm going to be writing the Doritos logo over the top of that black triangle. And as you guys can see, I have the image of what I'm doing on the side of the video, and that's because as I was recording this, I could see that so the lighting that I use for my videos is a ring light that's around my camera directly above my work. And that leaves super, super horrible reflections on something flat when I'm sculpting it or painting it. And I knew that that was going to be an issue, so I decided to just take pictures along the way, just so that you guys could see clearly what it is that I'm doing. But I know personally, even if it's a shiny, horrible type of video, I still like the video. So I have the video going and a photo. I hope that works for everybody. So then I'm going to be cleaning up the writing with a little bit more black gel paint. So as you can see in the picture, we've got just this little black kind of shadow around each letter. And then after I have that done, and that part is really quick and easy, and you don't have to completely surround each letter or go crazy, but just make sure that they all look really nice and even and really clean, I guess is the word I always want to go back to. But then with white, I'm going to add the little flame because this little chip looks like it's on fire. So you're going to add a little base for those flames. And then with orange and red gel polish, I'm going to be applying a little bit of color over the flames so that they're no longer white, but having that white base underneath just makes that pop, looks like it's glowing. And then with kind of a rusty color, I'm going to be painting my two Doritos that are at the bottom of the bag. So you've got a larger triangle and a smaller triangle. Just paint those two. They don't have to be perfect at this point. This is just the base of the chips. And then with a brighter orange, and I'm using gel paint again, I'm going to be applying that in a tapping motion. The tapping motion gives a little bit of texture to your chip so it's not smooth. And you can also add some highlights on the bag as well. So just like a kind of a glowing line coming up from the chips. So if you guys can see that in the picture, it's really subtle. But then I'm going to take some pale yellow and add some more depth to my chips and some more highlights. Again, using kind of a tapping motion just to blend that out. And then with some black gel polish, I'm going to be adding some shading underneath my chips. And the reason to use gel polish instead of gel paint is it's less pigmented, which means that it blends out into shading a little bit easier. And highlight them with an ever so slightly small amount of yellow, really bright canary yellow. And then underneath the Doritos logo, off to the side a little bit, write Nacho Cheese, first with black gel paint and then with white gel paint. Again, the black is just for a shadow type effect. And this is teeny tiny, so if you guys are doing a different type of chip, obviously switch up the bag. There's a whole bunch of different colors Doritos. You can have fun with it. But that nacho cheese is so tiny, but it really does add so much more detail to it. However, if you're like, poof, that's too small a writing, just skip it, and it's just fine. And don't worry about it. After all that's done, apply a capping layer of gel top coat over your little chip bag, and then you can cure that a final time and peel it off that silicone mat, and then you can trim the edges in case there's a little bit of unevenness, which inevitably there will be, so don't worry about that. And then after it's all trimmed and smooth, then you can take and gently glue it together by folding it in half in one direction, and then glue it again at the bottom of the bag, so that's where the chips are, where the chip logo, the chip painting is not the Doritos logo. So glue at the bottom there. And then you have this adorable little chip bag. When I showed my dad this design, he asked me where I was able to get a little chip bag. And I looked at him, I started laughing. I said, I made the chip bag. And he goes, what? Yeah, that's kind of classic of my dad for you. But then glue a piece of wire into the hole, and then cut off the extra wire, and then glue that other end into the chip bag. And then give yourself a pat on the back, because what I consider to be the taxing portion of this design is over. Yay! And then on the nail form backing, we're going to be sculpting several little triangles of Dorito color. So I started with a warm gold acrylic, and regardless of the flavor that you're planning on doing, I would start with that kind of a shimmery, tannish, orangish color, chip color, because you add the flavoring second. And so even if you're doing like a flaming hot, bright red chip, I still would stick with this as a base color and then add the red. It just, if some of it shows through, it just looks a little bit more realistic. So keep sculpting all of these wonderful little triangles. Do 4 to 5 at a time, depending on how fast you are and how fast your acrylic sets. So depending on, you should know your speed with this kind of thing, but definitely don't do 1 at a time, because you'll be driving yourself crazy. I'm trying to remember exactly how many chips I ended up sculpting. I know I've got 9 here. I think I probably ended up doing about 15. So just keep sculpting those little chips, and then I'm going to keep working on it, keep adding some more. And so like I said, you're going to start out just with a basic chip color and then add your flavoring on top. So when you go to add the flavoring, you can do it with gel paint or you can do it with acrylic. I did it with acrylic. So I'm going to dip my brush into orange acrylic, and it's just the very tiniest amount of orange acrylic on there. And you just sort of brush it over the top. You don't completely cover it. You just sort of float the acrylic around, and it doesn't have to be smooth or pretty or perfect. In fact, you want it to be a little uneven, because if you ever look in a bag of Doritos, the chips are never completely perfectly flavored. Then bend your nail form backing into kind of a curve while those chips set up so that they're not flat. And apply some jewelry gel over the wire of the Dorito bag, and then over the nail and everywhere over the nail. Don't be skimpy with it. And apply it pretty thick, because you want to be able to push the chips into it. And then brush some gel sealer over the top of that jewelry gel that's on the nail. Don't worry about going all the way up the wire, but just on top of the nail. Then pick up the chips, and this is before that gel has cured. So pick up your chips and start placing them. And place them down the wire and coming out of the bag, and then all over the nail. And if you have any gaps, don't worry about it quite yet. I filled those in with some rhinestones, so don't worry too much if you have any gaps. Even if you think it looks kind of weird that there's the gaps there, it's okay, because we'll just fill them in. So just keep adding these chips, and if they're not all the same shape or the same size, that's okay. You do want them to be close to the same shape and size, because Doritos are made so that they're pretty much the same. But just then, after that's done, I'm going to fill them in with kind of an orangey yellow rhinestone that I have. So just fill in any gaps with those. Different sizes, add some variety to the nail, and it also makes this nail a bit more glamorous, because this is one of those nails that the theme isn't necessarily glamorous or girly, so adding a little bit of rhinestones or glitter somewhere definitely brings in that kind of an element to it. And here is the final design. This is one of my favorite nails that I've done recently. I think it is just so cool, and I love that Doritos bag, you guys. I think it turned out amazing. And if you have a chip request you'd like to see me do, I'd love to make another one of these, so definitely post a comment below. And if you do a recreation, tag me on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to see them, and I'll see you next time. Bye!